Heart to Heart. Real people having real conversations about things that matter most to you. I'm Sherry Elise.
I'm Cyrus Webb.
I'm Rich Osagara.
I'm Patrice Tanaka.
And we are Heart to Heart.
Woo! Hello. Round of applause. I see. Welcome to Heart to Heart. My name is Sherry Elise, and I am one of your co-hosts of Heart to Heart. Welcome. We are an interactive talk show where you get to choose the topic. If you're here watching with us and joining in the conversation, please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you are watching from. If you're watching the replay, just write replay in the comments so we know that you have been here with us as well. And the one favor that we ask of you is to share the love by hitting the love button right below this live stream. So this week we got in a bunch of juicy topics for you today, which we are going to be opening up the Heart to Heart vault a little bit later. And these are the three questions that it has come down to. Why do people hate and judge instead of trying to understand with compassion and an open heart? Thank you, Amy. Tracy HK, which is not our producer, Tracy, sent in, how can menopause be managed without depression? This menopause question keeps coming up for us. And then 3, Dava asked, when should you stop listening to gurus and make your own way forward? It is going to be a great show, so let me bring on a fabulous co-host. Welcome, y'all. Nice to see you.
Hello.
How are you guys feeling today about the topics of discussion later?
More good ones. I like all three. I think I told you guys I like the second one because evidently a lot of people are going through the change, so they need some help.
Going through the change. I love it. You know what I noticed, guys? It was really funny when the intro video was playing. I was like, oh, finally, my hair matches the intro video. I finally.
You have a few colors to choose from. So.
Yes. When the other day I walked in the closet because I have my hair hanging in the closet, like on these wig, like hanger things. And when I walk in, and first of all, it looks like there's like a bunch of people just hanging from my closet. But also it literally looked like Charlie's Angels. I had like a blonde, a red, a brunette. It was
How many
cool.
wigs do you have?
Probably about 10.
Wow.
Which is,
Yeah.
not a lot of them are like just really old at this point. So I don't want to put them on, but they're good like for hiking, you don't really care. They're all matted. So, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have like an entire closet full, like people collect shoes. I want to collect wigs.
Yeah, why not?
Love it.
So yesterday, I wanted to just talk to you guys about this. So yesterday I posted on my Facebook page a question that said, what has been the greatest lesson you learned from the pandemic? Now, I got to tell you, I post and share like really high, I believe, valuable content. I put videos out there. I do all of this stuff, right? And there's rarely any engagement. Maybe I'll get like 2 comments and I'm like, oh, okay. I posted this question, and as of an hour and a half ago, there's 560 comments.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like, the two things I took from that, number 1, stop working so hard, Sherry, and just post questions. Stop trying to add value. and then 2, people had a lot to say and have had a lot to learn. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I just want to say hello to everyone. Hello, Carl. Nice to see you. Samantha says she can't believe she's finally here. I'm happy to have you here. Cody's already answered. He has learned tolerance and he's lowered his expectations of others.
So talking about me.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to say is, so I've read through a lot of these comments and I was really surprised and then kind of not taken aback. I don't know. But the main thing that came through in all of these comments about the greatest lessons that people learned were 2 main themes that I found. And one was that people said that they actually found that pre-pandemic, they were already spending so much time alone that really didn't interact with a lot of people. So they found the pandemic not really that much of a social change for them. And then the other one was that they realized that they really just don't like people. And it's funny. And then, but those two main things like just got me thinking, and I'm curious for your guys' input in this. I'm just wondering about, this is what I came up with. Social media, being connected online. I'm wondering if this has really killed like the ways that we interact with one another, the need to have, in-person exchanges, because hearing that so many people lived this way before the pandemic, that there really wasn't, any sort of in-person connection. I don't know, that just got me really thinking, because before like the internet came along, like were there people that just lived in their homes and never went anywhere or saw anyone? Or did we feel now that we have this connection that we don't need to do that?
Yeah. It's a really good question. For myself, it may be hard to believe, but I'm really an introvert. So being by myself is not bad. I've never looked at it as a bad thing. So for me with the pandemic, it wasn't that different anyway. I traveled for work, but really other than work, I really didn't go anywhere anyway. So, and now that I was able to do work more from home, it didn't affect me much anyway. It has nothing to do with me about me liking people, but as far as I didn't feel any more alone during the pandemic, I think it actually, I met people, I met Rich now because of this, because of, your idea, Sherry, for this platform. So, for me, I've actually met a lot of new people because they are spending more time online and we're able to connect. So for me, I didn't miss what I had or didn't have pre-pandemic in that respect. But I do found that because of this new platform, I'm able to meet more people.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my experience too. I'm an introvert as well. I can be extroverted when I need to be. But what I love about social media is that people reach out to you. I reach out to people. And because it's a one-on-one thing, and if you get together on Zoom and have a conversation, it's still a very intimate one-on-one thing. So I met a lot of people one-on-one, which is my preferred way of getting to know someone, rather than, okay, you're at an event with 500 people and go, try to connect. That's harder, right? Because you can't have, really deep conversations with a room full of 500 people. So I actually have enjoyed, all the people and experiences that I've had, because once you meet new people, they're always inviting you or asking you to do this, or, and then you meet other new people. So it's kind of almost endless if you want to go and meet people in a less painful way than being out there socially with 500 people. So,
yeah.
Samantha says some people are easier to get along with online than face to face. Well, you can always just say bye-bye.
True.
So for me, I'm an introvert too. And I work from home anyways, in the before times, I worked right here. But I did get out a lot more to do work in cafes. So I had a whole circuit of cafes in the area, and that, when they all had to close, that really put a damper on things, right? And I wasn't there to socialize, but being around other people who were also working, whether they were in school or other business owners, was energizing for me. So that was a little bit of an adjustment. And then of course, having, being with my partner all day, every day for a long time, that was a new thing for us to navigate. We're both alive still, so I guess we survived that. But on the other side of this, like Patrice was just saying, I got re-engaged or engaged with a couple of business groups that are global. So there are people from all over the world. And I have met more new people doing amazing things on the planet in this last year than I have in many years. And, thanks to Zoom primarily, having one-on-one conversations and meeting with people, my network has exponentially expanded. So I think it just depends on how each person chose to use the time we had in isolation.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward. We just found out that San Diego is going to be in the orange zone, which means we're almost fully back up and running. And that's actually, I felt weird when I read that. I was like, oh my God, I have to see a lot of people outside.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm wondering though, because were there really this many introverts before the internet came along? Because I feel like part of me feels like it, not that it's a crutch, but we know like that we can just go on the computer and see people and talk to people. And before that, would we really have stayed in our homes and not done anything, or would we have met up with more people in real life?
Sherry, honestly, I did. I mean, my friends that have known me over the years know before we reconnected on social media, I wasn't going out with them. I wasn't even before there was Facebook and all of that. So this actually gave us an opportunity to be more engaged with one another, because like I found, oh, you have children? I never do that.
Where have you been hiding those?
Yeah. So I mean, but yeah. So for myself, I can say that social media has made me more social, because as you know, Sherry, I get in my own little world, and I don't know what other people are doing until it's in front of me. Then I was like, oh, Sally has this, or such and such is doing that. So I mean, for myself, and maybe for some people it's different. I was that person who was so in my bubble that I would not know the things I know now if social media was not here.
Interesting. Yeah. It was just so interesting to read all of that and just see that continual theme. And then of course, mixed in there was, I realized how much I miss people, or, I miss hugs. There was a lot of, I miss hugs. But the majority was that. And then I just realized I didn't like people or there weren't as many good people as I thought.
Well, I mean, to your point, Sherry, on the other side of this, because we're all like, yay, it was amazing. We met all kinds of people, expanded our networks. But that is not true for a lot of people, which is what you're saying. And rates of depression, alcohol use, statistically, like now there's numbers, like the alcohol use has increased. I don't have the exact number, but a lot. And also suicide. Because of people feeling isolated and not having knowing the resources or being able to, especially if you're introverted and already inclined to maybe be harsh on yourself. If you're already alone and now you're forced to be alone, like we were in the last year, then I can see where that would lead to people going down a different path than what we've experienced here in this group. And so that is definitely a problem, and it's not talked a lot about in the media. But the numbers on depression, suicide, alcohol use have all increased, and deaths by alcohol abuse, I was hearing on NPR, I think, have increased. But we don't hear a lot about that, and so that there's a lot of people who are living that experience right now as well.
Yeah, those numbers are crazy. When I was, I'm sending out a lot of stuff, being in media and stuff like that. And so I've had to look at a lot of the statistics, and they were saying that, before the pandemic, it was 1 in 10 that was feeling, depressive symptoms, anxious symptoms, and now it's 4 in 10 since that. So it's absolutely gone up a lot. I wanted to say what Carl said here, because I found that really interesting. Carl said, prior to the pandemic, I was finding being online was much more engaging for me. I found I was able to be real, which I felt I couldn't be in my real life. I feel like that's a topic to dive into at a later time. So Carl, feel free to send that in to discuss, this idea of being real.
Yeah, and he's also just added another about partner abuse or children being abused because of the forced, isolation, and that's another big number that has increased, domestic abuse.
Yeah. Well, I just, I was shocked at the amount of responses I got. And I feel like people have had some real time to be able to reflect now that things are starting to, light at the end of this pandemic tunnel. So people,
Right.
Really started to reflect, and that more than anything, I think has really been amazing to come out of this. So
Yeah.
thanks guys you guys got to go check out.
I'm going to post that question too and see what happens online.
Yeah, I was totally shocked.
Thank you.
But now it's time for our favorite part of Heart to Heart, where we get to look inside of the Heart to Heart vault. Again, thank you guys so much for sending in those questions. And now, just so you know, all of us have no idea what is inside the vault. So please, Tracy, reveal to us which question made it to the vault.
How can menopause be managed without depression? Tracy, HK, we love you. We're so glad to be able to tackle this, topic with you. Guys, I mean, so it's really two things there, right? Menopause and depression. What about you guys? Anyone want to get us kicked off? I've been actually looking, I was telling you guys, I've been looking forward to this topic.
Dive in.
Because I'm dealing with this with my mom right now. And one of the things that I've learned is the importance of, with her at least, is the importance of patience and letting her know it's okay. It's okay. It's part of the gift of aging. And I was able to look up some great articles for her just to let her know, hey guys, don't worry so much about that. It's okay if you have to turn the fan on at weird hours, or you're feeling some kind of way. So for us, it's kind of been that kind of a thing. It's just for myself and her, it's just letting her know it's not a bad thing. And that's what she was thinking. She's like, oh, I'm going through this. My life is over. And I was like, no, this is just a new chapter of your life.
That's first, I love that you are, going through this with your mom, like you're being in that space with her. So I think that's amazing, because I think that there are a lot of people who just don't want to talk about it. So the fact that you can even have that relationship and that talk with your mom is pretty awesome. I don't even know what to say, because it's something that I'm certain I'm going to be going through at some point. Well, I know I'm going to be going through it, but probably sooner than I would hope, because in my mind I'm still 25, but I'll be 47 this year, which I'm like, how did that even happen? But I love this idea, because I was thinking about it last time this question came up, about really just accepting this as a gift and part of life, and the transition. And I just wonder, because I don't have all of these technical answers for you. I know ways to get through depression or to navigate through depression. I don't know if it feels any different with menopause, or if it's the same depression, if that makes sense. But I have, this reframing idea of about allowing ourselves to, for our bodies to go through what they're going through as they change and transform. And I just wonder if that would change emotionally and mentally how we go through that.
Well, I'm the only one in our group here who's been through menopause.
Great. So just go, take away.
But it was so long ago, because I had a hysterectomy, and so I went through a, kind of an early menopause. And I remember it was such a roller coaster ride until things stabilized. But again, that was like almost 30 years ago. So I guess I do. This is terrible. I remember when I was younger and getting my period, it was such a drag that I would always say, I wish I didn't have a period. This is just such a, because I would have, painful periods. So it was, uncomfortable, on top of it always seemed an inconvenience. So actually, when I went through menopause, I was happy, because I no longer had to be, saddled with that as an issue. And So I don't know. I feel there's kind of a new sense of power going through this phase, that I have become kind of part of the village elders, which I think is a lovely position to be in, not, in the thick of things, in the scrum fighting for, I'm like kind of beyond that and in a different place. And I see being menopausal as part of that new position in society. And as a society, we need village elders who make time, who have time to teach us and pass down learnings, and who can spend time with us. So it really is kind of an important phase that affects everyone in society, and it's actually a gift to society. That's kind of how I look at menopause.
Well, I guess I do have a few things to say on this topic. For all you watching, this topic has been a running source of laughter week after week, because we've all been worried about this question coming up. And so here it is. Patrice, I swear you must be my other mother, because my mom also had a hysterectomy at a young age. I was pretty young at the time, and I know it was a very difficult process for her, having to go through that menopause early, but I was so young. But Patrice, what you were just saying about the elders and this rite of passage, I think that was really beautiful to me. And one thing, why has this topic been like so uncomfortable for us, knowing that it was even a question that might pop up? And as I was listening to all of you speaking, I think it's because we don't talk about this issue in our society. We don't talk about, you said the word period, Patrice, and I went, oh,
because, and I was wondering if other people were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, men don't talk about women's period, to my knowledge. Now I have a different experience because I'm not in a relationship with a woman, but even I've always had female friends as like best friends. Very rare would I hear them talk about their periods. The only reason I learned about this really was working in retail, surrounded by almost all women, and they were all on the same cycle, because their cycles aligned, which is an interesting hormonal phenomenon. So I would know, like, imagine having 20 women on their period at the same time. So
that's a powerful bunch.
That was yes. I learned a lot, but in general, men are not taught about women's bodily functions in this area. And in many, many countries right now, there are women being beaten, even murdered, sequestered, ridiculed, and shamed for having their period. And one of the organizations that I just love is called Days for Girls. And what they do is they educate young women, primarily in third world countries, although it happens right here in the United States too, this shaming, which is all due to lack of education and ignorance and false beliefs and all kinds of unfortunate societal views. But Days for Girls educates young ladies about their bodies and teaches them that they're not bad, and that they're sacred, and that they're amazing tools, they're holy. And they teach them how to take care of their bodies by making washable kits for their periods, so they can actually have what they need instead of using leaves, corn husks, newspapers, or nothing to take care of themselves. And it's a phenomenal organization. And I'm talking about periods. Even the topic here is menopause, but before we get to menopause, you go through a lifetime of having periods. And I think it's just so stigmatized that we should talk about it more. Men should learn how to talk about it and not feel weird. And this would help everyone in this process. And I can't even imagine what it's like to be a woman and have to deal with that every month and then go through menopause. Like, if that wasn't bad enough, here's
Right.
Yeah.
So, my hat's off to women and everything they have to deal with. That is forced to be behind the scenes, and you're not allowed to talk about it out loud or complain about it. You should just go take some pills and, shut up, is the way I see our society treat this. And it's unfortunate. So and women should talk. I invite women to talk to us more about it.
Good catch.
Each other.
Thank you, Carl. Well, thank you, Rich, first. And I just want to acknowledge Carl's comment. He said he didn't understand some things about it, but learned to be patient, caring, and understanding as best as possible. He mentioned earlier, his wife learned some natural remedies that really helped. And well, first talking about it, and that's why I am genuinely glad that this question came up, and I'm glad that we're having these conversations and people tune in and they hear a man saying period, and we're talking about menopause. This is part of our human body. This is what we go through as women, that, it shouldn't be shamed like that or something to feel ashamed of speaking about. I love that organization that you mentioned, Rich. I actually saw someone on Instagram that was the period coach, and helping, women just talk about it and go through it, and, men in their lives, whether they wanted to learn more about it. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, I love this idea of just being open like that, you know?
Yeah.
And this idea that menopause comes along with, that depression comes along with menopause. Again, I'm going to go back to that mental reframing, and that when you understand why something has arrived and that it's going to go away, I think it's easier to navigate through something, right? Than when something unexpected arrives.
Yeah.
Well, I think that goes to this fact that the menopause or menstruation and all the phases of it is not talked about openly. And so I can only guess on this, what I'm about to say, but I suspect that there are many women, because it wasn't spoken about in their families, they weren't mentored or educated about it, that they therefore just don't talk about it, including to their healthcare providers, if they even have health insurance or doctors. So there's just so much secrecy and lack of understanding. And I think that would lead to some layers of depression, of the shame and the guilt. So education, self-education, and normalizing the topic would help people, understand, like, oh, this is something that happens, and I can ask for help, and I can take care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, so that it's handled versus hidden. And when we hide things, we all know here, that leads to manifest negatively somehow.
Sherry and Rich, something that you said triggered a thought that what would happen if no one ever felt shameful about some of these things, like menopause or periods, and shame was not something that people had to live with, and how much more freeing and liberating it would be, right? And how much more joyful our lives could be. So by talking about subjects that are sometimes taboo, it's great that we can kind of be focused on creating a shame-free world. Of course, you should feel ashamed if you do something terrible, but but to be shameful about some things like this is just a waste of time and energy, and right.
Well, I always say this, thank you. And Patrice, it's I'm going to say it again without tooting our horns, but that's why Heart to Heart is here, to be able to have these conversations about things that we don't often talk about. And that's why we put that question out to you guys that say, hey, what is it that you wish that people would speak more about? What is it that you want to know about? What can we bring to the surface and bring to the light so that people can start having these conversations and feel less shame? It ran in my family too. Like, nobody wanted to talk about it. My grandmother was going like a little nuts. And I don't mean that derogatory, like, she was having those fluctuations, but no one wanted to admit it. So we were talked around it, which then I think brought more shame to it. So I don't know. I think it's a great topic, but we have hit the end of today's episode of Heart to Heart. You guys, we don't have to talk about this anymore if we don't want to, unless someone is going to write
Now I
in.
want to.
I know, right? We all avoided this for so long, and now here it is.
I think we should have a march for menopause.
Yes. Thank you all so much for joining us on today's Heart to Heart. Please, if you have a question, something that you want us to have a heart to heart about, please email us at heart2hearttalkshow@gmail.com right here on the screen, and join us next Wednesday for another awesome episode. Thank you, Tracy, so much for doing this for us and putting us all together and making us look good. And as always, so awesome to see the three of you. And you guys, don't forget to take care of your heart and one another's. Bye, everyone.
Bye.